Welcome to Beats and Boots, the podcast where stories from music and subcultures around the world come together.
Here, we want to explore the journey of skinheads and skin girls, rude boys and rude girls, punks, and everyone part of our subcultures. On each episode, we will dive deep into personal stories, how our guests discovered these scenes, faced challenges, found joy, unity, and identity through music. Join us on Beats and Boots, music and subculture stories.
Welcome to Beats and Boots, music and subculture stories. Our guest today is from Albania. She is currently established in France. She is the singer of S1E6-Ed, a powerful punk and oi band from Paris. Let's welcome Ed to Beats and Boots. Welcome, Ed Lira.
Hi, hello everyone. Thanks for having me to this podcast, and congratulations also on your podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. Absolutely. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I'm really excited to share your story. So let's begin with the introduction to the subcultures. How you first discovered the subcultures scene, meaning when, where, and how did you first get involved?
So, like, you mean like my first memories?
Yes.
Okay, so probably as many of us, I had the chance to have a bigger sister who like made me listen to my first alternative or rock or punk related music or bands. So I think that like my first memory when I was around like 9 years old, we're in our room and she was listening it was in the lately 90s and she was listening to like classic shits like Nirvana, Metallica and all. And she was like, yeah, I'm so fond of it. And do you want to listen? So she put, the music in my ears and I was like, wow, what's this? and after that, in the early 20s, we had this big in the malls. We had this big shops where we could go and like buy CDs, and obviously it was CDs because it was more the CD-ROM area, right? So you could go and listen to music that was like displayed and to new bands, and they had this rock and metal and alternative. How can I say? Partial. Yeah. So so I discovered other bands this way. And also, like, I remember, for example, the release of Marilyn Manson's album in 2001. It was Hollywood. It was really something for me. So I went into a kind of like goth style and all, and also started to dress. We had this shop that I guess a lot of middle and big cities in France have, like this shop where you can have like clothes for every style, alternative style, you know. So I wanted to buy all the accessories and all, and then I went back to school with my new look and all, you know, when I was proud of. And after that,
How
like,
old were you at this point, more or less?
so I was like, I think something like between 12 and 15 years old, something like that. Yeah, just before high school, you know. And so my friends were like, wow, what's this music? What's this look? So a Saturday afternoon, I went with them I brought them to the shop, and I was like, yeah, this is the, you know, the clothes you should have, and this is the music. And we started like skateboarding a bit and all, just to fit into all the, you know, how can I say, stereotypes, but it was something new and was like very exciting. So this is how it started, basically,
Yeah.
I think.
So your first exposure to the subcultures was throughout the music and the shops. So at this point, you haven't go to any shows yet.
Yes, that's exactly what you're saying. I was like more into discovering more into discovering music, also through like fanzines or magazines, you know, where they have this kind of compilation CD-ROMs, and everyone was like also, you know, burning CDs, like burn CDs, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm sharing them. Yeah, I know.
And making compilations and all. So I was living in Lille, which is like in north of France. It's one of the biggest cities in France and very active also in this scene. In punk scene and oi scene, and so I was living in a small city next to this city. So until I guess 15, 16 years old, I was just like going during the weekends to go to these shops and try to find. But we were like hanging definitely around our areas and starting like to drink our first beers and smoking our first cigarettes, and definitely not going to shows because we didn't know about. So I was kind of like alone in it, even though I had friends of mine who were also listening to this. And
how you discover the light shows and the subculture?
So I think it was through when I was later, when I started like at 19 years old, some friends of mine at the faculty, so they were also involved into alternative like scene and all. They opened a squat actually in an old, I don't remember if it was a kind of big house or old industry, because in the north you had a lot of you know, the miners during you know, people that work in the charcoal mines. So you had a lot of old factories that were like abandoned. So they opened this place and they found actually a dead cat in the biggest room, and they decided to call this squat the Dead Cat. And then we had the information that they were organizing gig out there. So I knew that some friends that I knew from junior high were having this hardcore punk band, and which was called Teenage Wasteland, and they were playing there and with other bands which I can't remember the name, but it was, I think, one of my first memories of gigs. So I think it's a shame because I can't remember my very, very first gig, but I think it was around this. And then in Lille, so in the biggest city next to the small city where I was living, there was like this, we call them like café concert, which is like basically it's a bar and it has either a basement or a room where they organize like DIY shows.
Can you recall any specific moment when you realize, okay, this is the place I belong? This subculture around me, I feel connected, identified.
I need to talk about also my personal story, which is, I think it's very linked to this. So I was born in Albania, yeah, and I arrived in France when I was 11 years old. So obviously when I arrived, like I started learning a new language. I came here with my family and with my sisters. So I think we wanted like to be integrated, to talk French, to be like as normal as possible as a kid would like to be, because you don't want to feel difference between you and other kids. So probably wanting to like fit into something, and also finding this scene where like no one was judging you or asking you where is your accent from, or like where do you come from, or I think I found a kind of comfortable place to be, and also probably because of the post-trauma of leaving like my country and all, listening to this kind of music was also very like, I don't know, liberating probably, or very, I could like through probably something in it too.
It's interesting because many of us feel the same way. Like we found in the subculture, in the lyrics, in the music, in the community, a place where we feel we'll belong, no matter what, no matter where. And I think it's powerful, and that's one of the objectives of this project. Connect with people around the world that we have lived through different experiences, but we truly share many ways and many feelings about what the subculture have done for us. So going through that line of thinking, talking about shaping your identity, right? How has being part of this subculture influence in your process, constructing your identity and sense of self?
I think that probably, without wanting to use like a big word, but probably we feel a bit like outsiders or something like that, maybe not fitting with some values that concerning where I live, like the Western society wants us to be or to have, or I don't know. So probably it was fitting also with, first, as I said, like my personal history of living my mother country and all, and trying like to fit into something, but wanting also not to fit in largely like in our societies. And so probably it's because I was like feeling more and more attracted to people that I feel close to with sharing these values, and not like having an aim of like wanting to have like a big career. I don't know. So it's very like different small things that when you put them together, you're like, okay, I feel into this. I feel belonging in this community, as we can call it, because I think that it's a community, but composed with small groups and other communities and all. So it has definitely shaped my way of seeing life, of not for, I don't know, for our parents' sake, probably not fitting very well of what they want from us, but also being like respectful, because I also think that in this community there are more respectful things that I see and that I share comparing to general society. It's like into the way of being and of thinking and of seeing things, and also something deeply rooted that probably, I don't know, I had also in me.
It is. Many of the conversations that I have before with different people is like moments of self-reflection, when we start thinking about how deep is this connection with the subcultures. And going through that, I want to ask you too about your experience as a woman, right? Navigating the subcultures and the scene, especially being in a band, right? What has your experience been like as a woman? Have you faced any challenges, moments, or instances of discomfort or sexism along the way?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not a musician. I've always liked music. I've always been raised in listening to music and discovering new styles and new genres. And So it's something that it's part of me since I'm a kid. But I'm not a musician. But I think that maybe what could have been a bit challenging first is like daring taking a mic and trying to do something with my voice, finding it. So it was first a thing between me and me, like a challenge, a personal challenge for before being something with others or what others think. Of course, it's very weird to, and I think everyone would say this, every singer, yell, or I don't know, whatever we can use as a term, it's very weird to hear yourself, to hear your voice in a mic or in a monitor, or I don't know. So first of all, it was this challenge. Then I never thought that I couldn't do this. It was more probably something of being shy and also, trying just to step this, because I think that I've seen as many girls than boys who want to do music, but sometimes they're not very comfortable of listening to other persons or to their friends or going on stage, which is what we all want to do when you have a band, So when we started the band, of course, and one of the first show was of our shows was in front mainly of friends, So it's a double thing. You think that your friends are your friends, so they're going to be very indulgent and nice with you, and on the other side, you're like, oh my God, they're my friends. I don't want to be like. I want to, to disappoint them, or I don't want to forget the lyrics. I don't want to, it's a big thing, at some point you take it as a real project. So, and I really think like when we started, it was in the punk scene, it was with friends from the DIY scene, and we had a very good welcoming. And I, of course, started to hear people saying, oh, wow, that's cool. It's a band with a girl singing. I also heard people saying, oh, I'm not fond into female voices, so it's not my thing. So actually, it was pretty much welcoming, I must say, in the beginning. And it's still now then. But of course, I'm very aware of the fact that the scene is mainly like occupied, if we can say, by
male dominated. It is, and that's what's so great about your project. You represent, the female front, a singer in a band, and it does represent a lot. It is important what you're doing. And
I didn't want, when we started the band, to put in the flyers that it was like a female vocal band, because I was not feeling comfortable in doing this, because it's not like something a plus, it's just the way it is. It's so no need to precise that it's a band with a female vocal, but because I'm more into normalizing, having normal things, like as much bands with women, with female, and with men, and with persons. So it's, I'm of course, it's something, it's a true thing. I think that there are more and more initiatives that are taken to have a more diverse scene and more inclusive. I'm just not into, just doing this because it's women, or because, of course, you have very important initiatives for our scene and also for the mainstream, meaning everyone in the society, right? Because this problem concerns everyone, not only, like to me,
absolutely.
Punk scene, oi scene, hardcore scene is a society, our little societies in the big society, and we confront the same problems as like we have at work with our families. So I'm not like idealizing all of this, because I think that it's a day-to-day struggle to keep it like safe and to make it evolve and all. But It's just that to me, pushing too much, like doing into a kind of, how can we say, positive discrimination, it can be tricky. So for me, it's like, go do it. Of course, people need to be encouraged and women need to be encouraged, maybe more, but not making it like, okay, it's female, so it's extra, or it's female,
more
so
into
it's
normalizing that it should be this way.
Probably there's this process of putting them more, or talking more about them, or putting them more in front is important for now, for in the future being normalized. Maybe, I think it's a process. So
no, definitely. And I think the line of thinking that you had is the correct one, right? We don't want to divide. We want to truly see each other as equals, but also, as you stated before, understanding that we are not necessarily there yet, but we need to walk into that direction, right?
It was considering the question of being a girl in a scene, and how is the image,
the female experience in the scene.
You know, I wanted to take this example of this very famous MC DJ from Jamaica, who is Sister Nancy. So I'm taking this example, which can be like kind of far from the style of music I do with my band, but everything is very linked because we all listen. I mean, we're a lot also listening to like ska, reggae, and dancehall, and all the subgenres. So Sister Nancy, so when she covered the song from Bam Bam from Toots and the Maytals, she was saying in her song that she's just a woman, that she wants to have the ambition. She has these ambitions of being an MC, and that's all. And her ambition is like doing music. And I've kind of like feel this way too. It's just something to illustrate what I was saying before.
Yeah, it resonated with you, what she was saying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Whatever. I don't know if I made myself clear about what I'm saying.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great answer. Now, going a little bit more into the line of thinking of the discovering of music, which bands and genders have had the greatest influence in you?
But like, as I said before, like when I started, I had like different style of bands, actually, from Suicidal Tendencies to The Clash to The Who, Iron Maiden, and also different projects of Mike Patton, you know, from Faith No More, Mr. Bungle. And I think for example, if speaking about, I started listening to bands with female vocalists like way later. So these bands, as you can say, are different styles, and I always been into listening different styles of, and also hip hop and rap. So I think with discovering more and more subgenres, also, I think it made me listen to a lot of styles, and also obviously internet helps us to discover new styles, and which is cool. Like right now is, for example, in Paris, the hardcore punk and punk scenes are mixing more and more. People from different scenes are doing like musical projects together, which is like very cool. We have this, really cool. Yeah, we have also this new wave of kids coming that are like, since COVID actually, they're coming more and more into shows and discovering. And I mean, this is the way it works, right? We need new generation also. It can be sometimes separated from scenes, from a scene to another, or for who is more like politically engaged and who is less, I don't know. So, or people that like are more like, we do music for music, even though they have like their political engagements, but they don't put it like in front of their music. They have it like personally or whatever.
The joy in the music, right? And the enjoyment of what you do. What brings you the most joy about being a musician and playing shows?
Well, it's so cool to have like your bands with whom like you've had, like you do this because obviously it's fun, and also because it's a kind of hobby, right? To like write music and do rehearsal with your friends and all. Even sometimes can be a pain in the ass, obviously, but it's like gathering together, doing this, and showing what you've done, like starting for us, for example, from a room, and then you go on a stage and people enjoy, and you can see that it makes feel them also like well and enthusiastic and sharing like the love of something that you've done with your with your mates, and then it's really a process that it's very like wow. So it's very cool, and then it's also accompanied by meeting people from other cities, from other countries, from other cultures, and this is I mean, I consider myself very lucky to travel with music and meet people from other scene, and where you realize that the contacts are not the same, or it's a big exchange of like, when you go with your school with a language exchange, it's done for opening your mind and all. We have the luck to do this with our bands, so it's
understanding the culture, the ways they do things, and the way they relate to each
and
other.
also it makes you take a step back sometimes on what's happening in your scene, because obviously sometimes it can be like some problems or some, I don't know, like finding solutions in how others do, or also taking like their experience, which is like very open-minded and it's very like precious.
It is one of the joys of being able to travel and experience other subcultures, learning from their cultures, the good and the bad, right? Yeah. Great. So to finalize the interview, what changes or improvement would you like to see in the subculture moving forward?
I think that the changes are already like starting and going on. We were talking before about the room, the place for women in the scene. I think that everyone is like having different points of work on it. Like girls are doing more and more bands, and also different initiatives for like learning music together or helping each other, or organizing gigs, doing fanzines, doing podcasts, radio shows, speaking about this. So when Drugi's Radio was the project was when it started during COVID, it was like a group of people who wanted to do this because like everyone was obviously like at home and getting bored. And with some girlfriends of mine, we were like, okay, hey, let's do a show about women in punk and generally in music. So we did some podcasts that were like broadcasted in this web radio. And this kind of initiative was very liberating, very cool. And also it had us doing something during COVID, obviously, while we were like at home, getting a bit bored. And I really see around me more and more initiatives going on this way, So
it's the importance
really cool.
of getting involved.
Definitely, I think it's normal. Like when you arrive in a scene, when you start, you can be like introvert or shy, or you can not even be introvert, even if you're like at ease. It's not easy to know where to start from, and I see more and more people who are younger than we were doing things like very normally and which is very cool. So other stuff is it's weird because it's not in our hands, but I think it's something that I saw in other countries too. We're having less and less places to play here, because of the cities who are getting more and more like normalized, and we just want quiet nights in the big cities, and gentrification is also responsible for that. I think that it's a lot of it's also a question of money, so we can definitely obviously not do a lot about this, but like I really think it's cool to like open squats and do this kind of stuff to even it lasts like for some months or a year.
Have that initiative of trying to contribute to keep the subculture alive, and the shows and everything that involved.
Yeah, definitely, because with this kind of places, you can determine your conditions, and you can make all these causes like go further than when you arrive in a place where they tell you like, okay, you do this, it costs this, you don't have the right to do this, blah, blah, blah. So even though we deal with this, right, because we don't have any choice, but it's getting like harder and harder.
Thank you so very much, truly, for your time. It was a pleasure to meet you and have you in the show.
Pleasure to meet you too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Remember to check out our Spotify playlist featuring Elvira's music recommendation. This was Naya Maji. Until our next episode of Beats and Boots, Music and Subculture Stories.